Hey, do you get upset about this release of this prisoner? Does that ring your bell at all?
Well, I'd just like to know more. I'd like to have a little more information. You know, did he really desert his people? Because a lot of people are saying that he was a bad guy. So I'd like to have a little more info. All
right. Well, I think that's what General Dempsey said. Let's not convict somebody until he's innocent until proven guilty. But there's an awful lot of stuff coming out, and Americans are demanding answers. And lawmakers are fuming. They want to know why Obama surrendered top Taliban leaders to rescue one questionable American POW.
That's right. The White House has called former POW Bowe Bergdahl a hero, but his fellow soldiers are calling him a deserter. George Thomas has the latest.
A new video released by the Taliban shows a clean-shaven Bergdahl dressed in Afghan clothes sitting in a pickup truck. Moments later, a Black Hawk helicopter lands, and he's handed over to American Special Forces in Afghanistan. The exchange is made as dozens of Taliban fighters, armed with AK-47s and rocket-propelled grenades, watch on a nearby hillside. Bergdahl's release has sparked a huge controversy with his former soldiers, accusing him of deserting and putting American lives at risk.
I feel like he deserted us. He knew what he was doing when he deserted us. It was premeditated. It was thought out.
Fellow soldiers say the 24-year-old started complaining about America's role in Afghanistan early on, and just months into his deployment, he disappeared from his base, leaving his body armor, weapon, and helmet behind. The U.S. launched a massive search that resulted in the deaths of several American soldiers.
People calling him a hero and people calling him this great soldier, I mean, it's a spit in the face to the soldiers who died as a direct result to him leaving.
The Army says they will review Bergdahl's case to see if any misconduct occurred. Meanwhile, his release has also backfired on the White House. Republicans want to hold hearings on whether the president broke the law by not consulting Congress on the deal to swap a U.S. prisoner for 5 senior Taliban leaders.
Is ill-founded, it is a mistake, and it is putting the lives of American servicemen and women at risk.
The president apparently told the Senate's top Democrat, Harry Reid, that the exchange was imminent, but just didn't tell any Republican leaders. It must have been either the day before or the day off. I don't remember for sure, Reid told Politico. Still, some Democrats are upset about how it all went down.
I strongly believe that we should have been consulted.
Bergdahl was held by the Taliban for 5 years. He's now in a military hospital in Germany and is expected to return to the United States later this week. George Thomas, CBN News.
Well, folks, the deal was the Veterans Administration scandal was just rising, and the Obama was fighting to prove that he did something, and his poll numbers were plummeting because the veterans were getting a lousy deal, and the hospitals were inefficient, and the entire mess was coming down on his head. So how does he do to get out of it? He gets one soldier, and he says, look, I'm for soldiers. Here's this staff sergeant, and I've got him free. And so I made a little swap for him without asking Congress, but I just wanted to do that because I'm president, and this is the way I look at it. And so I conferred with myself, and I said that I was doing okay. So my Justice Department and my staff and the White House told me that I could go ahead and do it. So I didn't have to consult Congress, Democrat or Republican, but nevertheless, I'm going to have a Rose Garden ceremony, and I'm going to send Susan Rice to the Sunday morning shows. And so she's coming out and saying this man served honorably and with distinction and all this stuff, and it turns out he's a deserter. So they've got egg all over themselves, but it was a political move. Everything he does is political. Make you sick.
How do you really feel?
Well, you know how it is. I'm so level-headed about it all. Well, a new report shows more widespread failure at America's veterans hospitals. And now Republicans have a plan to give vets health care freedom. John Jessup has more of that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. Here's John.
Pat, Republicans proposed a bill to guarantee veterans will get the medical care they need. The bill, drafted by 4 GOP senators, would allow veterans to see a private doctor if they're forced to wait too long for an appointment at the VA. Meanwhile, the federal investigation into the VA scandal has exposed more abuse. In addition to the scandal surrounding the Phoenix hospital, investigators uncovered secret waiting lists at Midwest hospitals in 6 other states, including Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois. Over 100 veterans there waited for appointments for more than 90 days. A major research hospital in Tennessee has laid off 1,000 workers because of Obamacare. Vanderbilt University Hospital took that step last year after projecting a $100 million drop in revenue under the new law. But the Tennessean reports the hospital saw an even bigger plunge, and now they're expecting a $250 million decline over the next 2 years. So now the hospital is taking other drastic steps, decreasing pay and benefits to preserve 2,000 other positions. Well, extreme weather battered states across the Midwest Tuesday. Torrential rains, high winds, and several tornadoes were reported in Iowa and Nebraska. 85-mile-an-hour winds uprooted trees, tore off roofs, and knocked over tractor trailers. Near Omaha, up to 4 inches of rain triggered evacuations. Hail the size of baseballs slammed into houses, shattered windows, and smashed through car windshields. The severe weather arrived during an unusually quiet spring, with far fewer documented tornadoes in May than in previous years. President Obama held a private meeting with the new president of Ukraine today. Petro Poroshenko was elected just 10 days ago, and he's vowing to retake parts of eastern Ukraine from pro-Russia separatists. The Ukrainian military is stepping up its offensive. Troops broke through rebel-held positions in the city of Sloviansk. Officials are warning residents in the city and surrounding areas to stay at home while they fight the insurgents. That warning comes as a Christian orphanage in Sloviansk was attacked by pro-Russian insurgents. The center is partially supported by CBN's Orphans Promise. No children were hurt in the attack, but Orphans Promise has moved all the kids to a safe place in western Ukraine. In Nigeria, 10 top military officers were found guilty of helping the Islamic terrorist group Boko Haram by providing them with weapons and information. The convictions came months after reports from politicians and soldiers accused some senior officers of aiding the group. Secret information provided by the officers helped insurgents ambush military convoys and attack army barracks. Other allegations said that some soldiers even fought with the insurgents during attacks, then returned to army camps. Well, it's been a month and a half and nearly 300 schoolgirls are still being held hostage by Boko Haram. The kidnapping put a spotlight on that notorious group, which for more than 5 years has committed countless atrocities against Christians and others. Gary Lane has the story of one Nigerian schoolgirl who overcame a murderous assault on her family.
Deborah Wakai Peters played with some of the 276 schoolgirls kidnapped by the Boko Haram terror group. She says her mother once attended the same school in Chibok, where the girls were kidnapped. Deborah has experienced her own horrors at the hands of Boko Haram. One night just before Christmas 2011, she watched as 3 gunmen entered her house and killed her father after he refused to deny Christ. They also killed her 14-year-old brother Caleb.
So they go ahead and shoot him twice in his chest. So he fall. When he fall, he started moving. So they go ahead and shoot him again, one in his mouth, and then he fall down and died. So I was in shock. I didn't know what was happening.
Deborah's mother, a former Muslim, was away from home at the time. Shortly after, American children of 9/11 victims invited Deborah to attend a camp in the U.S. While she survived a terror attack, Deborah could not make it through the bureaucracy of the State Department. It twice denied her visa requests.
And the reason she was denied a visa was they said to her, you can't make this stuff up. They said to her, you don't have family ties. And so they essentially re-traumatized a girl whose family was exterminated by terrorists.
When Deborah talked to CBN News, she made it clear why Boko Haram targeted her family.
In the Quran, they say that any Muslim woman that turned to Christian, her punishment is death. So they did all this because of her.
So you think if your mother had been home, they would have killed her as well?
Yes, because they were targeting her. Even now, they are looking for her. If they see her, they will kill her.
Why did they kill your father?
because number one, he's a pastor, and the second one, he married my mother. When he married my mother, so he turned my mother to Christian, so they were angry with him.
Now, had your father led other Muslims to Christianity?
Yeah.
Ogebe suggests world leaders take a more aggressive response in order to stop these attacks.
This is a make or break time for Boko Haram. If the world cannot unite and snuff them out now, they now know what will get our attention. And they're going to keep, putting it in our faces.
As for Deborah, she finally received a student visa and now attends school in the U.S. So what does she want people to learn from her story?
They will understand and they will know more and more of what God said, and they will understand what it means to stand strong.
A 15-year-old Nigerian student standing strong in victory over Islamic terrorism and praying that her Christian friends will soon be reunited with their families. Gary Lane, CBN News.
You can find more of Gary's exclusive reporting on his blog, The Global Lane, including his latest report on a Chinese crackdown on Christians. To access the blog, all you have to do is go to our website, cbnnews.com. And Pat, that's one brave young girl.
Well, she sure is, and the rest of them are too. And I tell you, what needs to be done, in all seriousness, this group needs to be eliminated. And we have military force. I think if we had a company of Navy SEALs, or maybe a couple of platoons, would maybe make up a company, but a company size with full weaponry, and put them into that area where they are. We know where those people are. We have drone intelligence. We have satellite intelligence. We can find out where they are. And if we want to ask the Nigerians to give us some honest troops to back us up, that's fine. But go in there with full guns blazing and really no mercy to those people. They're vicious killers, and they'll continue to kill and to rape and to rob until somebody does something to them. And we need to do that. We can do it. And if President Obama wants to be macho man, he can be macho man with a good contingent of some of our well-armed people from SEALs or Delta Force or whatever, but fully armed and with all kinds of support material, especially air power. We can do it. We need to.
25 years ago today, Chinese troops cracked down on pro-democracy protesters in Beijing's Tiananmen Square. China's brutality left hundreds dead and plunged the country into chaos. Every June 4th, the communist government tightened security, but on this 25th anniversary, it's even tougher. One China expert says the Tiananmen's crackdown actually helped church growth in China. A Loyola University professor says the massacre caused many Chinese elites to lose faith in communism and embrace Christianity. By some estimates, there are now more than 100 million Christians in China. A Tea Party challenger could unseat a 6-term Senate Republican. Tea Party candidate Chris McDaniel has virtually tied Senator Thad Cochran in the Mississippi Republican primary. Now they're looking at a possible runoff vote on June 24th. Meanwhile, Republicans believe they've made other gains in Tuesday's primaries that could put them on track to regain control of the Senate. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.